Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous, and welcome to the Twin Peaks Thought of the Day for Friday, November 17th, 2017. It is currently 6:15 p.m. here on the west coast of the United States. My guest today is already in Saturday. I think it's like 1:15 where you are. I want to introduce someone really cool. You probably have seen her stuff online, but she's never actually done one of these video podcasts before, especially at least not on this channel. So let me introduce Millie from Mod Pie. How's it going?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And I've just got to keep in mind I'm actually talking to you, not just watching. So if I go quiet, I might be confused and just think I'm watching you. Just give me a little tap.
So can you give us a heads up? What is going on Saturday?
So it's spring here. So Cameron just commented, have I got a pet bird? No, that's out the window. So no, it's a beautiful day today. And yeah, starting to warm up quite a bit down in Australia.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. So why don't you tell the viewers how you discovered Twin Peaks?
I think like a lot of people out there, I watched it when it first aired in Australia. I think I was maybe about 12, on the cusp of being 13. And it just really connected with me, and I've loved it ever since. When season 3 was announced, I had people ringing me and congratulating me like it was just for me. In many ways, it was just for me in my mind. But yeah, like I do a lot of crafty stuff, and I've always done Twin Peaks art as well, and that's what's brought me to the show today.
I find it really interesting that the original viewers of the show, especially if you were in that magic age of, let's say, between 10 and 16 when it first came out, for a lot of people, I have to say that Twin Peaks is kind of like our Star Wars, the way that you see people online on YouTube, talk about all the Star Wars movies, and they have Star Wars podcasts and they talk about the new movies and stuff like that. That's just kind of like how I always felt about Twin Peaks. I always thought Agent Cooper was my Luke Skywalker. So when the new show got announced and came out, I thought, it'd be super fun to like talk about all the upcoming news and talk about the show and, do breakdowns of episodes, just like the way people do about all the Star Wars stuff. And it's just been a lot of fun. And, when I was younger, watching Twin Peaks, I'd watch an episode and then immediately be on the phone with friends afterwards. And what'd you think of this? And, oh, isn't that crazy? And this and that. I still remember going on like a high school friends radio show right after the episode where Andrew Packard was, we found out that he was still alive. And I remember just like complaining, like, really? That's the episode. And again, it's funny because that was right at this point too, because I was, because where we are right now, it's November 17th. They aired that episode right before the Thanksgiving break. They took like a few weeks off. And I remember thinking, really, that's going to be the episode that's going to hold us in suspense for like 3 weeks? Andrew Packard's alive? This is...
I think you just triggered a memory of mine too. I remember that. Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, this is ridiculous. Now, I mean, I listen, I really do love the show, all of it, warts and all. But it really was something else to watch it week by week. And a lot of new viewers got to experience that with, obviously, season 3. But back then, it was like, I mean, we had like 3 weeks off in between an episode. And, the Laura Palmer story had been basically summed up. So now we were off in new territory. And then they dropped this bombshell that Andrew Packard's still alive. And I remember thinking, yawn, this is, what are you doing? Where are we going? Where are we going? Now that I've seen obviously the whole, season 2, I like where it went, but that was just not a cliffhanger you wanted to end before a 3-week break. I mean, that's just,
I think that's the best thing about it. It makes you uncomfortable and comfortable all at the same time. And even season 3, I felt like I was home and in such a foreign place all at the same time. Like, I loved that. I loved the ride of it.
If they wanted to, now that I'm thinking back on that, if they really wanted to end it on like a cliffhanger and make us just go crazy, they should have waited or no, it's not play that episode, but just let the previous one end where Major Briggs disappears and Cooper's in the woods and the light goes out and then it fades out. That would have been a great one to end on for a 3-week Thanksgiving break, not Andrew Packard stepping out in his cane, you know.
I agree.
Okay, so all right, so the original show's on, you see it, you think it's over. When did you find out that they were making Fire Walk with Me?
I don't really remember because we were pretty removed, like there wasn't really YouTube or things like that. So I didn't really have a Twin Peaks community. And it's so cute that you say I used to ring my friend and say, did you watch that episode? Well, that, you know, wasn't for me. I didn't have anybody to talk to. If anything, it was like a form of leprosy. You know, that girl likes Twin Peaks, there's something wrong with her. But I hung in there and, yeah, I remember watching it probably a fair bit after it was released, and I really loved it because I was always very drawn to Laura's darker side, and that scene in the pink room, and, yeah, I loved the feeling of it. And I love seeing a bit of more of Laura because we didn't get that much of her in the beginning.
Even though she was very prominent in all those opening credits. Right? It was like, okay, yeah, Laura is the one, but Laura is nowhere even near this season 3 until like the last 2 episodes. Right. I mean, yes, I know she showed up at the very beginning, but for it was like one scene and then she like flew up in the air and screamed and, you know, flew away.
But that scream though, what a great scream. It's an amazing scream.
We've known that Cheryl Lee's been a great screamer since, you know, the early, you know, season 1 and 2. So, I mean, listen, all the Laura screams are scary and haunting, and but listen, the ending of the season 2 opener, right, where they showed the train car, that's horrific. And you know what? Everyone praises Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer, and I get it, right? She's wonderful and perfect and epic and this thing. But can we just get a little bit of Madeline Ferguson love in here? Because she nails that too, and nobody ever talks about Maddie.
Yeah, look, that's my favorite episode. From the moment the giant appears on that stage while, you know, Margaret Lanterman's cracking open her peanuts, that's it for me. That's the epitome of Twin Peaks, is that episode, and I'll watch it a million times over.
I would almost say that if you were okay, I mean, obviously be major spoilers, but if someone said to me, okay, out of the whole show, and again, you know, you have to, you can love all of it or you know, love certain parts, whatever. But if someone said to me, give me a 20-minute full like sequence of Twin Peaks that you think just represents everything about the show, and I would say the last 20 minutes of episode 14 of season 2, right? From the Leland at the mirror, Ben Horn being arrested, Cooper saying to Margaret, something is happening, Margaret. Yes. And then that cut to the moon, the roadhouse scene, Leland killing Maddie with the world spins music, everybody crying, Cooper sitting there contemplative, the slow dissolve to the red curtains, and then which they don't have on the DVD or the Blu-ray, but after it fades out, it then faded into the Twin Peaks logo, and all you heard was just one little like wind, you know, and it was so eerie and scary, and that was it.
That record loop, that little record loop, as well as, you know, Sarah's coming down the stairs. When that hits, that's when I know, yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
You're gonna make a lot of people watching this video like watch that episode tonight.
Yeah, please do. It's the best.
But I will say this though. Watch it on the Blu-ray, because the gold box version has a different cut of it. They actually, I don't know, I want to know who was behind this, but there is an extra like 2 shots right before Leland runs after Maddie. Or right, yeah, right there. And it's unbelievable. Like, who added these shots? Is this Lynch's original cut? You know, or what? Because it doesn't really add anything. And in fact, it kind of messes up the pacing a little bit. But I would say that 20 minutes straight is pretty astounding.
Yeah.
plus we also get the reveal that that Catherine Martell is actually this Asian man, which is, you know, the first white person to come out of an Asian person in Twin Peaks. We got another one at the end of 17 of this new season. So, you know, it seems to be a theme here.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, how great was Jack Nance in that moment when he realised that it was Catherine? That was beautiful.
Oh, yeah. You actually felt really happy for him, even though Catherine was so mean to him. And I think that's just the power of Jack Nance. You know, I mean, there's so many actors who are so perfect in Twin Peaks. Obviously, everyone talks about Kyle and Cheryl, but yeah, I mean, Jack Nance, obviously wonderful. You know who else is wonderful that gets no love? I mentioned Madeline Ferguson. I'm going to say this. I want to do a whole episode that is nothing but love for the character of Blackie, because she's really great.
She's on my to make list because I think she'd make a really good doll. Yeah.
Yeah, especially do it with like the one trickle of blood down from when Jean Reno kisses her. Yes,
I like adding blood. I do. It's a bit grotesque, but I do like it.
Yeah. You know what would be great dolls to do would be just do the Renault brothers.
Yeah.
Right? You know, Bernie behind a tree. You know,
I might need a bit of extra padding for a few of them.
Oh yeah, exactly. that would have been great. You know, do a Leo Johnson like on the ground, like cleaning the floor. But yeah, you know, Fire Walk with Me is a movie that I really do like, and I do love it. I have, you know, little nitpick problems with it. But that's just, you know, that's just par for the course. And I mean, even with the missing pieces, I still have some little nitpick stuff about it. Like, again, like I always say I love it, and then I always talk about my nitpicks, but I really do love it, and I love it for all the reasons everybody else loves it. But if someone say to me, okay, what is disappointing to you about Fire Walk with Me? It's the same stuff just keeps coming up in my head over and over again. You're dealing with the last week of Laura Palmer's life, right? Which honestly, I almost think that was kind of a mistake in a way. I think that they should have just done Laura's life, and just so we could have seen her as a young girl growing up with Leland and Sarah, you know, that kind of thing. I do have the
secret diary. When does that kick off? How old is she? I can't remember.
I think 12 or something like that, around that time. But I would have loved to have seen, and again, I understand the movie's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and they couldn't go any further than that. And obviously we have 90 minutes of missing pieces, but I'm saying when they're writing the screenplay, a couple things I would have loved to have seen. We get Bobby in the movie, and we get Shelley there being yelled at by Leo. We have an R-rated David Lynch movie. Why not? When we remember how hot and steamy Bobby and Shelley were in the show, let's see them hook up in the movie.
Yep.
Right. And let's kind of explain why Shelley doesn't want to hang out with Laura when she's there doing the Meals on Wheels. Right. When she says, "Oh, I was busy," when she's telling Norma, I was busy. Well, let's see why she was busy. I don't want a throwaway line of, "I haven't seen you since I was thrown out of One-Eyed Jacks." I want to see Laura. I want to see Blackie throw Laura out. Right. And I mean, as much as we love that pink room scene, I would have loved that scene inside One-Eyed Jacks.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been great.
I mean, now I'll take what I can get, but I'm just saying. If I had been there in 1991 when they were writing the screenplay, I'd be like, take this scene and put it here, because it would be epic. And instead of Laura running to Donna and saying, "Donna, not you," and all that, how about Blackie saying, "Get the F out of here and take your Coke with you"?
I think the thing I struggled with too is when Donna's talking to Harold, and she's talking about the fact that they went to the lake and they went skinny dipping and da-da-da, you know, and she tells that like it's such a pivotal story, yet somehow the trip to the pink room didn't seem to make it in there. You know, it kind of ruined Donna's innocence a bit to me.
Well, that's the other thing, is that when they were doing the show, they didn't know about the pink room because Lynch hadn't decided to make that scene yet. And the only reason why that pink room scene is in there is because Donna tells James in the pilot, I knew her better than she thought I did. Well,
Yeah.
obviously Laura knows that because she went and rescued you. And that's why she says, I don't want you to be like me.
Yeah.
So what they did was they took lines in the pilot and then they shaped scenes in Fire Walk with Me around those kind of, lines. So that's where all that came from. But, it just would have been cool to just kind of, instead of having to follow this, if you read the screenplay, it's like 6 days till her death, 5 days till her death, it's a countdown. And when you're doing a countdown, it's hard to pace it. But if you just kind of said, we're gonna do Laura's life, well, then you can pace it however you want. You don't have to do the countdown. And a lot of that countdown got deleted out anyway because it was a movie and they had to cut out so much. But yeah, no, I remember seeing Fire Walk with Me and I really loved it. But I remember getting out of the theater going, but I wish they had touched on this and this and this. Oh, they could have done this if they connected this, and all they had to do was say one thing here and blah, 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 blah. Little things like that. So I went back and saw it again the next week because back then movies played for like 4 or 5 months. So it's not like today where movies are in and out of the theater within like 2 weeks and out streaming in a month. So the next week I went to go see it again. I remember the theater telling me they were averaging, I think, 1 person a show all week long, and sometimes 0 people. Nobody went to see that movie. And I went and saw it again. And again, I really liked it because I loved the experience of it. I remember my friends saying, it doesn't even feel like Twin Peaks, though, because they filmed it in different seasons, so they didn't even recognize the town. And there's not much of the town in the movie. I mean, we just get Laura's house and some other stuff. But when you see the missing pieces and you see the set that they have for Dr. Jacoby, when you see Cooper in the bathroom doing the I struck my head, Harry, struck me as funny. Those sets are like the same ones from the show. So it begins to feel like the show more when you see some of these missing pieces. But by taking those out, it made the movie more just like a standalone movie, which is fine. But you have to understand, by doing that, by making those kind of cuts, you also pushed away some people who might have liked the movie more.
Yeah, I liked the insight. I liked the Palmer family at the dining table, even though that was a pretty uncomfortable scene. I liked just seeing them, because we don't get a lot of them together. I like the family side of it, even though it's pretty messed up.
True. So, and that was it. I mean, that's what we got. Fire Walk with Me closed it out, and that was the end of Twin Peaks. I mean, for 25 years. And we had to just deal with it. And the way we dealt with it was we just moved on with our lives. And every once in a while, Twin Peaks would kind of come back. And when it came back, we immersed ourselves in it again. And then, all right, that was it. And then we moved on, watched some other stuff, kind of, read some other books and watched some other movies and that kind of thing. And then it would just keep coming back. And I kind of referred to it as, it's kind of like your first love. You just kind of, whenever you think back on it, you go, oh, that really was something special. And again, like, people can fall in love with it anytime, obviously, because it's kind of a timeless thing. But again, there was something about it hitting me at that age. So it kind of is your first love. And because it wasn't just like Police Academy 5, it touched you on so many levels that in a way it's like the first time art like grabbed a hold of your soul and said, hey, look at this. It's it's kind of profound in 1990 when you didn't expect to see that right after Roseanne.
Yeah, I can't even really remember what was on Australian television back then, but probably lots of Home and Away and things that were, pretty standard. And then this show, and then particularly when the Red Room comes into it, and you're like, holy crap, what is this? But unlike you, I didn't really go off and watch a whole heap of stuff. I've got a handful of movies that I really love, but Twin Peaks is literally on repeat in my studio 24/7. It's pretty bad.
Well, let's talk about like, in that 25 years, let's say in the mid 90s, when you had friends, when you met people, did you ever sit people down and say, hey, check this out, let's watch this together. Did you ever have like, you know, those, you never try to introduce Twin Peaks to other people, you just kept it private?
Oh, look, I think I kind of went off the reaction of when I would mention it to my friends and knew that it wasn't worth trying. Yeah, it's a pretty personal thing for me. Like, I've just got my son watching it because he's sort of getting into a bit more alternative kind of stuff, and thankfully he really loves it. So now we do have lots of conversations about Twin Peaks, and thankfully he's sort of on the same level as me. Like when he was watching the, I don't know, we're calling it The Return or season 3. As he was watching that, he went off and watched season 1 and 2 and Fire Walk with me before he watched The Return. So I'd already well and truly seen it. But he would sort of come in and go, really, Wally Brando, really? And I'd be like, yeah, honey, it was a bit corny at first, but I really love him now. And I just had to let some of those things settle, because it was like being through a trauma. I had expectations that weren't met, and then expectations that were well and truly exceeded. So, no, it's a definite thumbs up.
I remember talking to Sabrina Sutherland and saying one thing I really loved about the new season was that it didn't give us the story in a way we expected, but in many ways, I would say almost 8 out of 10. Sometimes 9 out of 10. I think it checked off all the boxes we still wanted. Like, we didn't get it the way we expected to get it, but they still like hit the beats, and I really liked that. I mean, obviously, I can still nitpick stuff in the season, because how can you not? It's 18 hours long, for goodness sake. There's going to be things you can nitpick about it. The fact that, you know, just it still cracks me up that Gordon, Albert, and Tammy for about 5 episodes are stuck in that Buckhorn Hotel. I mean, now they may have written it that way, but it so reeks of like, we're running out of our budget. Can we just stay in this room and talk?
And then somehow they've got all this high-tech equipment in there at one point. So where did that come from?
Yeah, that doesn't bother me so much. I get the feeling like a lot of those scenes were written to be other places, and then they just got trapped in that location because they had to make up the budget, because maybe that atom bomb sequence took up a little bit more than they expected.
Look, I can't even. Episode 8 is, I still haven't quite settled from that. That was, I remember at the end of it that I was sitting so far forward and in such a strange way that when I stood up, I was walking like a very old person for quite a while, because I hadn't moved. I don't know if I blinked. I'm pretty sure I was breathing. It was pretty amazing.
During that atom bomb sequence and we were inside the fire and everything, I remember thinking, all right, we're going to get this like introduction, especially when we get the, you know, the mother thing spouting all that stuff. And then obviously we see the Bob bubble and all that. I remember thinking, okay, any second we're going to cut back to something else, right? This is just going to be a huge extended flashback sequence of something. And then as it kept going, I remember thinking, this is going to be the rest of the episode, isn't it? It's just going to be like this for the whole thing. And it pretty much was. I mean, it slowed down and it went to that 1950s kind of monster movie thing with the woodsman. But it more or less became like this giant art piece right after the doppelganger was shot. And we got the Nine Inch Nails performance. After that, it was just a giant art piece, which was great. And I loved it. In fact, it made me think that even though it was kind of a nice placeholder in between, right? Because between the 18 episodes, I remember thinking, wouldn't it have been just crazy if they had held on to that episode until 18? And that's how they ended it, with the woodsman walking into the darkness. You hear the horse, and that was the end of the season.
Yeah,
that would have been insane.
Oh. Yeah, but even the way it did end, I mean, I think it was kind of, the end of episode 8 and certainly 18 left me feeling quite similarly the same. Yeah, just what was that? And then you have to go away and process and think about it. And look, my family, no, I couldn't even speak to people after the first episode. I was like, just please, I know this is weird. I just need a moment. Yeah.
Well, because it wasn't just the fact it was like, oh, the show's coming back. It brought back, at least for me, right? It took me back to being 14 years old again and waiting for the new episodes to come on. And so in a way, it felt like, I know it sounds strange, but it almost felt like the 25 years in between, it was like a pause button and I was resuming where I was if it had come back in 1991. Now, granted, season 3 is not at all what season 3 would have been like in 1991.
No.
But it and I would have loved in an alternate universe seeing what that other season 3 would have been. I mean, so who knows? But I'm sure it would have been wonderful in a different way. But yeah, it was really emotional. Like, it just, I remember, I was mentioning this to Hal the other day on a podcast, but after the very opening scene where they showed that flashback at the end of season 2, right? The hello, Agent Cooper, and then the finger thing. And then we got the opening credits, and that was great. But then once it went to black, that was the scariest I've ever felt in a long time in terms of watching TV, because I knew that the next fade up or whatever it was going to be the first image of Twin Peaks that I've seen in 25 years.
Yeah, and what a great image it was in the end. I kind of struggle calling him the fireman. He's always going to be the giant to me. He's Twin Peaks to me, and I just loved seeing him again, because I wasn't sure. I don't think anyone was sure. Even the fact that the theme song was the same. I don't know. All my hair was standing on end. It was, it was a bit like going home after a very long time.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. He'll always be the giant. He was the giant in the original series. He's the giant now. I mean, even though in the first episode, he's known as 7 question marks in the credits, but they like to play around with people. I mean, remember, Richard Horne was only named Richard Horne in the credits for a long time. And so, we were ahead of the show in many ways. And then Shelley didn't have a last name for the longest time, and then after she revealed that she had been married to Bobby, it then came up as Shelley Briggs or Shelley Johnson or Shelley. I can't remember, but we finally got her last name like afterwards. Maybe it was Shelley Johnson Briggs.
I've got Shelley Briggs on the phone, I think, after she's thrown off the bonnet. I've got Shelley Briggs here, and I think that's the first time. Oh, I could be wrong. I don't know. You're more the fact man than I am, but I think, particularly in the first couple of scenes, you get the Lucy Brennan, little plaque on her desk, and it was like, oh, thank God they're still together. And how sweet are they? Like the scene in the cell when Nado's in there, and she says, "Do you remember that night, Andy?" And he goes, "Yes, I do." And he's just so sweet about it.
Well, also the scene where she argues with him about what chair to get, and then
How sweet are they? They're lovely. And I've seen a lot of photos of them floating around at the recent cons that they've been going to, and just thinking, gee, they look like a good couple, and I'm sure they get that all the time, but they're just cute as together. Yeah.
yeah. But, that goes, it's very much in line with David Lynch. I mean, the innocent people, for the most part, are the innocent ones, and, like Lucy. And I remember when season 1 was on, and my aunt said to me, "Who do you think the killer is?" And I go, "I don't know. It's probably going to be just someone random like Lucy or something like that." She's like, "It's not going to be Lucy." And I remember thinking, well, why not? Because that's going to be, kind of the surprise. But obviously, if you really know Lynch's work, Lucy was never a suspect. Never. And even though, yes, we're dealing with, black and whites and grays and all this kind of thing, David Lynch never would have had Lucy and Andy be the killers. That's just not who he is, right? So in a way, even though Twin Peaks was like this huge mystery of who killed Laura Palmer, there were just some people that Lynch was never going to have a mean thing go through their body.
And thank God, because I would have been devastated. There's enough, when you realise that Leland is Bob. Even then, you can still kind of separate it in your mind, so you can still love Leland for Leland. But, I think then you all of a sudden realise the life that Laura had, and it wasn't what you thought. She wasn't just a regular teenager going off the rails, So, I wouldn't have wanted to see too many of the other sweet characters turn yucky.
Although, have you heard my wild theory about episode 8 with when the giant levitates up and then the orb comes out? When the orb is sent into towards the US, if you follow where the orb is, right? It's like flying, and then it starts to fade out, and right where it fades out, like right when it fades out, if you get a if you take a still frame of that, and then you take the United States and you show where it is, where that dot is when it fades out is Odessa, Texas.
Oh,
so
was it future or past then?
Yeah, exactly. Well, because I mean, obviously, where they exist is out of time and space, and even though it's 1950, whatever it is, 6 or something like that, it might not be where they are. So maybe this is just my wild theory, because who knows? Because there's no real answers. But maybe when the orb is coming out of the giant, that's when Laura is levitating up in the Black Lodge, and when it gets flown out, that's when she flies. And maybe that wasn't being sent to Earth as being to fight Bob back in the early 50s, and and get to Sarah, maybe that, and or Judy, whatever, and fight Judy. Maybe that was when Laura got sent to Odessa, Texas, and they just blurred it together as one big, is the future, is a past. I mean, no one knows for sure, but I'm just saying that it works for both, and I love that they thought it through, that it could work for both. And I like that. So.
Yeah. And I think if they went back again, that's probably what I'd like to see in a season 4 if it ended up being a feature film. I'd like to see more of the frog moth theory, the Sarah Palmer clearly being possessed or inhabited by something, and more of the... I'm assuming that Leland's not dead either. I know that they say that he committed suicide.
Mm.
Part of me doesn't want him to be.
Well, I almost think that if Bob is obviously Bob is more than this, but at the end of episode 16 in the second season, but when Albert says maybe that's all Bob is, the evil that men do, right? All right, we know he's not that, but let's just say he is that. So Bob is the representation of what evil men can do, right? And I almost think Judy, or Jaude, or however they want to say it, is how Lynch in his mind is explaining on a metaphorical level why Sarah Palmer just sat there and did nothing when she knew abuse was happening in her house. I think that's kind of his way of explaining that on a different level.
Yeah, and then the not that I'm a psychologist, but a lot of the jealousy between Sarah and the stabbing of the picture with the bottle. And I know a lot of people are saying that was grief because she was missing, but you sort of see little looks that she gives Laura when Leland gets close to her in Fire Walk with Me. There's hints of it there that she's actually quite jealous of how beautiful her daughter is, and that's a fairly common thing as far as I know.
Well, a lot of people love that scene in The Missing Pieces of Will Hayward talking to Laura about the angel and all that. But I can see why that scene was cut, and not just because of time. The way Eileen is looking at Will talking to Laura, I detect jealousy on her part.
Yeah.
And that's weird. And I think they didn't want to throw that element in there. So.
Well, everybody loved Laura, she just smiled at them, and they were, Ben Horn, everybody loved her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was another thing about Fire Walk with Me. It was like, I kind of agree with one sentiment saying that, even though it's a wonderful film, and I'm not bashing it, I'm just saying that at times it's too much Good Friday and not enough Easter Sunday, right? It's just pain and suffering. It's just Garmonbozia, and the way they talk about Laura in the first season, okay, that her last couple weeks would have been what they remember mostly about her, like right away. And that's not at all the way they describe her. So I wish we could have seen a little bit more of that. Like my favorite idea of something they could have put in Fire Walk with Me, which obviously they weren't even going there, but what I would have loved to have seen is I would have loved, because the day before she died, or the day she died actually, she went and tutored Josie in English. I would have loved to have seen that instead of just the 2x4 scene and that we got in The Missing Pieces. I would love to have seen Laura tutor Josie in English and stop halfway through and look at Josie and say something, like recognizing that she's a fake just like Laura is. And maybe like she's the only one that can see through Josie's mask. That would have been
the doorknob superimposed over Josie's face.
Just little things like that teased as to Josie realizing, oh my goodness, my life is about to crumble too. And I don't know, little things like that, because the first thing we see in all of Twin Peaks is Josie Packard in front of a mirror humming to herself. And she's not at all mentioned at all in season 3. And yet we got that image again of her humming to herself in front of the mirror. Why? Can't just be because Pete Martell is going to walk out and not see Laura's body. They're painting a picture. They're taking us back to that mood. They're saying that even though Laura's body is not found, these people are still doing their, devious things.
Yeah, and look, I suppose then does she die because, it kind of puts question marks over everything we've seen before, because if Laura isn't dead and she's missing, Agent Cooper doesn't come to Twin Peaks, and then the whole Josie thing doesn't unfold potentially the way that it did. So,
well, remember, Agent Cooper never was supposed to come to Twin Peaks because of Laura Palmer. He only came because Ronette walked across the state line.
Yeah, state line, yeah.
So if Ronette still walks across the state line, the FBI could be called, but they wouldn't have been called in for Laura Palmer being missing. Unless it was like a big thing, which maybe Leland working for Ben Horn would escalate it to a big thing, but it wouldn't be such a big thing by 10 a.m. the morning she's missing. It would have been a big thing 2 days from then.
Yeah, and I think in the book they did allude to, and again I could be wrong, I think they said that Laura didn't go to the train car that night, meaning that Jacques and Leo and Ronette were going to the train car, not to the cabin. So that possibly did still happen, but she's gotten, yeah.
But how do you feel about that? How do you feel about Leo, Jacques, and Ronette going to the train car when they had Jacques' cabin there? They weren't even...
Yeah, and it's one of the best scenes in Fire Walk with Me, seeing Bob and Laura in the train car. So, yeah, I don't know.
I just mean, but Ronette, Leo, and Jacques, they weren't going to ever party in the train car. They went to the cabin to party. So it's just, it's one of those little things like, okay, even if you took Laura and made her missing, they're not going to ditch this cabin in the woods to go and make out in this abandoned train car.
No, you wouldn't think.
Well, that, and also Mark Frost has that little moment at the end where he talks about how Gordon Cole walked Cooper to the underneath the Great Northern, and he disappeared in that hallway. And then it says that the Horn brothers were there in one line, that Gordon looked and the Horn brothers were now with him. And I'm thinking, how the hell are the Horn brothers here? And someone contacted me and said, "You think that Mark Frost meant the Mitchum brothers?" I was like, and the editor didn't catch it. It was so bizarre. It's like, because Jerry's in another state. Yeah, and Ben's arranging to go get him. Like, what? And it's just a throwaway line, like Gordon looks and the Horn brothers are there, and that's it. And it's like, what? What are you talking about?
I don't know quite how that works.
It's such a throwaway line. Most people aren't even catching it. But it's shocking. Like we have that line in there, and then we have the thing about Major Briggs, dumping a body over a cliff that Tammy doesn't even question who the dead person is. But then we get, 6 pages about Norma's mother or her step monster. So
did you like that?
Did I like it?
Yeah.
I didn't hate it, but I thought it was needlessly complicated for something that was pretty, like, it was what it was in the show. I don't think any of us were burning to have the full, True Hollywood story about Vivian.
I think it only explained for me Annie's surname. I think the rest of it, because I did go back and watched the episode where she comes into the diner and the whole food critic thing, and I still didn't pick up a stepmother vibe. I was trying.
Not only that, but Norma is not reacting. The words she says is the words she's saying because she's hurt by her mom, not a stepmother. Yeah. And the background that Mark Frost gives about the stepmother, Norma never would have put that much passion behind her words about, you know, if she knew that this woman stole her dad. My favorite thing was the fact that Hal pointed this out to me, because again, I'm reading the book. There's so many things being flown at you that you're missing things. But I love Twin Peaks fans because whatever you don't catch, someone else will, and then they'll let you know about it. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And the fact that Norma's dad's name is Marty. And then Hal pointed out, it's like, well, that explains why it says Marty Cafe next to the double R. And I was like, oh my God, Frost, what are you doing here? Like, really, was that really an I that needed to be dotted and the T to be crossed? I don't know. But I mean, it's cute. It's cute. But overall, I really did like the book, even though there were some serious continuity issues, and even if there's a new timeline being made, that still doesn't mean that Donna Hayward is now 18 years old in 1992.
Yeah.
Right. There's little things like that. Like Annie supposedly is 16 years old when she meets Cooper. And so then
he just wouldn't have went there. He just would not have done that.
No, but then two pages. He was too young. Right. But then 2 pages later, she's in her early 20s when she comes to Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So what Mark Frost unfortunately did was he made Tamara Preston into an idiot. Because she's not noticing these details, and she's supposed to be this crack agent on the Blue Rose Task Force. So what I want from Tamara Preston is Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs. I don't want someone who is incapable of connecting things 2 pages from each other. And I don't like the fact that Mark Frost throws in his some of his political ideas or ideas about the characters through Tamara Preston. I know that he has now come out on record and said that she's an unreliable narrator. Yeah. But she doesn't come across in the book as an unreliable narrator. People are taking what she's saying as fact. So much so that, do you know how many emails and messages I get on a weekly basis saying to me that that my viewpoints are wrong and that Mark Frost and Tamara Preston are correct, that Agent Cooper suffers from white knight syndrome. And I'm like, no, that's not it at all, guys. That's what Tamara Preston thinks, and that's what Mark Frost may think. But I don't think that is the basis for why he does everything in his life. Is all he wants to do is save pretty young girls. Come on.
Yeah, no, not quite. He's a bit more intuitive than that, I think. And
look at the way he treats Harry when Harry's like on that drunk, bender. He goes to help him. Right? Cooper is a stand-up guy who's there to help anybody. I know what they wanted to do. They wanted to humanize him a little bit and make him a flawed hero. However, I already thought he was humanized and a flawed hero. I didn't need them to bring him down to like a Martin Scorsese level of flawed hero or a Lost Highway flawed hero. Just let him be Agent Cooper, because he already
don't like. I think is the key. Pretend they never.
But you have Lynch and Frost both injecting this new, like they've had 25 years to think about these characters. So now Lynch is now approaching season 3 kind of like, well, okay, I've gone through Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire. So now here's my Twin Peaks after those things. And it's like, the reason why I love Twin Peaks is because it's Twin Peaks, right? I don't watch Twin Peaks because I want Inland Empire and Twin Peaks. I watch Mulholland Drive to get Mulholland Drive. I watch Lost Highway to get Lost Highway. I watch The Straight Story to get The Straight Story. I do not want to see Inland Empire in Twin Peaks. Now, again, Lynch is an intuitive person. He, this very much seemed like a culmination series in a way. It had a lot of aspects. Even had the ocean from Dune in it, for Pete's sake. But, I just felt like you can bring up new ideas about Agent Cooper, but don't give me the feeling like you want me to go back to season 1 and 2 and reevaluate my own perception of Agent Cooper, because that's you thinking after the fact. That's not, you did not have these ideas back in season 1 and 2 that he was this white knight guy. I mean, they go, oh, well, he went to go save Audrey. He would have gone to save Lucy if she was getting heroin overdoses and one-eye checks. I mean, he would have gone into the Black Lodge to save Catherine Martell. It wasn't just the fact that it was just poetic that it happened to be Wyndham Earle and Annie Blackburn, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's, I don't know. I just think it's really hilarious. And you know, I get messages from people that are like, well, you know, Cooper's like every man, you know, always trying to save the girl. One, he's a police officer. That's his job.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I just think it's hilarious that people have like politicizing Agent Cooper's character. And it's like, no, that's not what it was supposed to be. But it doesn't help when even the creators are kind of throwing this kind of stuff in there. Like, well, it's hubris to save Laura Palmer and think that he can stop this. It's like, what do you mean hubris? He's an FBI agent who has the power to go back in time and stop a young woman from getting killed, and in the process stop himself from getting trapped for 25 years and maybe not crying when he sees Sonny Jim in the back of a car. Maybe he could have had a life for himself. That's where that comes in.
There's a bigger thing that's sort of going on under there, and I think some of the pieces that I can't quite put together is when the mother, or whatever you want to call her, Babylon, is vomiting out all those eggs, that Bobby's actually a separate entity to the eggs and the frog moth comes from the egg, and I understand that. Then the counteracting of releasing the little Laura orb, there's a bigger foundation going on that we're just sitting on the top of. We haven't quite gotten to the bottom of it yet. So it's not just about Agent Cooper coming and rescuing Laura. There's a mission there, and we don't know what the mission is yet, I think is the thing.
Right. So it's not White Knight syndrome.
No, he knows exactly what he's doing. I think everyone just needs to trust him.
It just doesn't help when Frost comes out and says, you know, it's hubris of him to do such a thing. It's like, listen, that was the whole point of the Dead Zone. Remember the Stephen King movie, The Dead Zone, in the book? Was if you could go back and there you go. Yeah, if you could go back and kill Hitler as a kid, would you do it and save millions of people's lives? But it would change the world as we know it. Yeah, most people say they would. Okay, so is that hubris? Maybe, but it's not bad. It's
no.
Good Lord. They want me to hate Agent Cooper, and I'm sorry, that's just never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. No, not in a million years.
You know, and Tamara Preston can say whatever dumb thing she wants. You know, that Tamara Preston is a character I want to love, and every time she says something dumb in the book, I'm just like, Mark Frost, why are you turning this character into somebody I don't like and don't trust? Yeah. And that's not fair. In the show, Lynch took Tamara Preston and made her Tammy, and you know, just kind of sexed her up. And and the version we got, listen, there are a lot of great scenes with her in the show, but there's none of the Mark Frost aspect of her character where she's like studious and doing research. Yes, I understand. We get that one scene where she's like looking at the pictures on the TV. That's not good enough for me. You know, we saw Agent Cooper doing some actual investigating in the original show. Let's see Tamara Preston like come to some conclusions on her own, you know, without Gordon Cole spoon feeding everything to her, you know. So,
yeah, and it's such a conflict too. She's not a reliable informant, but the book is written as case files and with all numbered like they're official documents for the FBI. So you would think that there wouldn't be so many inconsistencies and that there would be maybe a bit of proofreading on her part.
Right. Well, Mentine Coma in the chat says, you're wrong, Cameron. The point is that Cooper's trying to change something that can't be changed. No, he changed it. I mean,
just trust.
Well, no, I mean, he stopped Laura from getting killed. He changed it. It altered, it changed. She disappeared instead of dying. But you know what? One of the great things about Fire Walk with Me is the ending. I love the ending. Not so much, I know everyone gets all teary-eyed about the angel thing. I mean, that's fine for me, but what I loved was that knowing that the doppelganger was out in the world. Because let's be honest here, for a year, the majority of us assumed that Agent Cooper had been possessed by Bob. And that was a horrible, horrible realization. And then in Fire Walk with Me, we found out that he wasn't possessed by Bob. He actually got trapped in the lodge and the bad version of Cooper got out. So at the end of Fire Walk with Me, when you see Laura and Cooper together in the Black Lodge and you see the angel and it does that great pull back and you see them, you know, together. I loved it with obviously with that music, The Voice of Love by Badalamenti. But what I loved about it was a wonderful poetic ending in that the world out there with the doppelganger was going to hell. But Cooper and Laura were together, trapped, yes, but together in hell on Earth. But they were safe and protected in hell while the world itself was going to hell. And I thought that is just beautiful and amazing and just incredible. All right. But what people don't seem to realize is at the end of season 3, it's the same thing. They may be trapped in an alternate universe or an alternate timeline or whatever it is, but guess what? Laura's not alone and scared. Cooper's not just befuddled and confused. What year is this? They're together. And when they're together, two minds, especially those minds, Agent Cooper's brilliance, Laura Palmer is the one. Yeah, they're pretty capable of doing whatever they want. And when she screams and the power goes out, to me, that's like saying, listen, may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but good will triumph over evil, because she just shut off all the electricity that the Black Lodge craves. And I thought that's just brilliant. It's brilliant.
And how awesome that they found a way to put Laura and Cooper together outside of the lodge in the return, just to see them in the car. And I know that it was quite a lengthy car journey, but just seeing them together was really nice.
Yeah, there are some things in the new season that when you watched them, you were really into it. But then when you go back and watch it, you have to think, okay, I love rewatching a lot of Lynch's stuff, but there are some things in season 3 that you have to ask yourself, like, now that it's all over. Okay, I understand when it was on and you go back and you watch an episode, but now it's all over. Do we have the patience now to sit through all the Sam and Tracy stuff at the beginning, knowing that, the glass box there, Judy gets out, and that's it. It's like, it's such a lengthy buildup to what happens. Now, that's great when you're watching it for the first time. It's great when you go back in the middle of watching the season and look at it, because the possibilities are endless that it could come back, it could tie together, it could this and that. Now that it's over and done with, there are certain things like that they're really well acted, they're really well written, really well directed scenes. But I think there are some things that that aren't not really necessarily a payoff. Maybe not that, but there's other things that may not have a payoff. And you're thinking to yourself, do I really want to sit through 30 minutes of this knowing that it's not going to really pay off? Let me just fast forward to when they die.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That's where my nitpicks come in with season 3, is there are certain things that you go, do I really need to see Tom Sizemore talking to the police outside the Rancho Rosa police station saying, oh, I mean to kill Dougie and that type of thing? Like, I don't know. Like there's lots of little things that like got branched out there that if they had not been there, it wouldn't have mattered. That's why so many people have said they could take the 18 hours and probably cut it into a 4.5, 5 hour movie really tight. Yeah, you probably could. You're going to lose a lot, right? You're going to lose quite a bit. You're going to lose a lot of great written, acted, directed scenes. But yes, there was filler. I loved the filler, but there was filler. And so if you're,
Yeah, and same thing too with season 1 and 2. Like I've watched it that many times. I know when I can get up and make a coffee because it's going to be, Harry slobbering all over Josie. And same thing too with the return. Like you can pick your moments, the sweeping up of the roadhouse floor. You can go to the toilet then. So you don't ever really have to pause. It's like, oh, this is coming up, I'll go and do that. Yeah, and I kind of like that it's sort of, like in terms of feeling like you're on a ride, I was going that way and then all of a sudden it took a really sharp left. I liked that I didn't know where it was going.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that was great. I mean, 16 episodes in, I still didn't know where we were going.
Yeah. I still don't know where we are.
Yeah. What year is this? I remember like the day of the finale talking with people and saying, what really scares me is that all of the trailers are shots from episodes 17 and 18. because we hadn't seen most of those shots up until that point. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
what do they have waiting for us on these next 2 episodes if all the trailers were cut from those 2 episodes? You know, and I think the reason why most of those shots were from those 2 episodes, I think there's one primary reason, and that is they did not want to tip their hands about Dougie. We had no preparation about the Dougie character. That was a surprise. Yeah. And so if you notice, none of the teasers, none of the trailers even hint at that direction, because they knew once we had Dougie for those 12 episodes that they were going to make people go crazy waiting for him to become Cooper again. But I still maintain that they did it on purpose to have him come out in episode 3 and go back in 15. So, you know, it's funny. But they also had to, when you watch the show, you can see that some episodes are very Cooper / Dougie centric, and other ones they were like, oh crap, we're running out of footage. Okay, just have Sonny Jim throw the ball at him one time. That's the only time we see him in the episode, because we're running out of footage. This is awful. So there's that as well. And then this whole thing of like all the different timelines and stuff like that because of this. Because I really think, and this was something we talked about all the way through, but after seeing the end and then reading Mark Frost's book, I think this is kind of truth, is that Agent Cooper has already kind of saved Laura. I mean, I understand we have her dead picture on the table, but for the most part, I almost think that this is already kind of happening, and that's what's throwing off these timelines, because that whole thing in the Double R diner where all the people are switching places as to where they're sitting, and then Shelley turns around, actually notices it.
Yeah.
That's kind of done on purpose. And just the repetition of things, you know, like even when the chromatics are playing, you'll start to notice that when they hit certain verses or certain lines in or, you know, whatever, there are certain shots on them. Like when she sings this line, it's a medium shot, waist to head. When she hits this line, it's always a close-up. And that repetition of editing is so methodical.
Yeah.
And so intuitive. So I think a lot of that just, you know, it's like, I understand if someone was disappointed in season 3, they didn't like where the story went ultimately. But I really do think that unlike season 1 and 2, season 3 was all about the details. I mean, season 1 and 2, yes, obviously details are very important, but season 3 was really about the details. And the more you looked into it, and the more you were looking at this and that and this and that, it made the experience richer. It almost was like, okay, yeah, there's some things about the finale I can nitpick about, but yes, on repeat viewings, I think it does get better. Although I really liked the last scene, but then when you go through the show and you look at the details, so much of it is so interesting. And I think with season 3, even if you didn't like where it ended or where it went, or you felt like Lynch trolled you, I think there's too much good in it to just dismiss it as being a failure.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if I don't understand people not liking season 3. Like, he gave us, you know, Norma and Ed getting together finally. Like, what a beautiful moment that was. Like, even just, you know, if you were sort of more leaning towards the soap opera side of Twin Peaks, then I can understand why maybe season 3 didn't quite measure up, but it still gave us some really lovely moments, and certainly reminiscent of the first couple of seasons. Within the first couple of seconds of it airing, I was like, yep, there I am. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted to go back.
I think I mean, there's just so many like great scenes within each episode that when I get messages from people saying, I hated the whole thing, I couldn't stand it, this and that, but I was a Twin Peaks fan from the beginning. I remember thinking, I go back and look at it. Listen, you're going to find much to love in it. You may not love everything about it, but you can't, it's hard to just say this was awful from start to finish. Even just some of the Gordon and Albert scenes are fantastic, especially the one on the airport tarmac. I mean, that's just great. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of little things like that. I mean, even some of the Dougie stuff is just, I mean, like so many scenes are pitched so perfectly, written, acted, directed. Like I said, that doesn't mean that it works. It may work as a self-contained scene, but I can understand why some people will be like, well, I still didn't like that scene. I get that. But didn't really have anything to do with the artistry of the scene. It had everything to do with whether you felt it moved the story forward or moved even the experience forward. That's where I am. It's not so much I don't, it's not really, I'm thinking, oh, this doesn't move the story forward. I think it's like, well, did we really need to spend this much time here looking back? Maybe we could have, maybe we could have had, even one or two less Dougie scenes and maybe a little bit more Cheryl Lee moments. I don't know. There's like, little, or maybe the great tragedy of season 3, which nobody can defend, is the fact that how little they used Ray Wise.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. And I think, there's heaps of stuff that I miss. I miss all the characters, and obviously the actors are deceased now and we can't do much about that. I really missed the friendship between Cooper and Harry Truman. I really missed that. And the fact that we got, I don't know, did we get more than one line, or one line out of Ray was...
one line repeated twice.
Yeah, that was a bit sad. I
was really hoping that Leland Palmer was going to be like the one-armed man and kind of help Cooper along his Dougie journey. That would have been great. Maybe give a chance for Leland to be like, the fact that he says, I didn't kill anybody. Well, obviously he didn't if Laura was saved. So maybe he's trying to help redeem himself inside the lodge by saving Laura. Therefore, he saves himself. That would have been cool too.
Well, and look how cool if in season 4 it could be that they need to rescue Leland, because I'm assuming if Cooper's doppelganger was the, person roaming around on Earth with Bob inside him, then technically that should mean that Leland would have had a doppelganger, and that would be his doppelganger still sitting in the lodge.
Right. And then some people will say, well, I understand Laura's the one, but why not go back? I mean, especially since we got that flashback to the past anyway, why not have Cooper just go back and stop Leland from being possessed by Bob and kill Bob then?
Yeah.
That would have been great, because by doing that, he saves Leland, he saves Teresa Banks, he saves Chet Desmond, he saves Laura Palmer, he saves Ronna Plasky. Oh my God. Okay, listen, I know a lot of people cried with Laura Palmer being saved. That would have made me cry if he just saved everybody.
Yeah, went to the lake house and found Bob flicking matches at Little Leland. And then
you see Bob there, and they can obviously insinuate it because Frank Silva's no longer there. But I would have loved to have seen right before he's going to attack Leland to have Cooper say, "Get him, Freddie," and then Freddie runs in there and starts beating people with him.
Good old Freddie.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some people say to me, like, isn't that absurd that, like, Freddie's the one that kills Bob? Like, why couldn't, Freddie do something else and have Cooper do it? I understand, because I really do feel like it probably would have been better for the Woodsmen to, like, start trying to kill everybody inside the sheriff's office, because there were so many people there viewing them, and Freddie could be protecting them from them. Like, maybe he could be crushing the Woodsman's skulls like they do to people, and then have Cooper just take out Bob while everybody else is scrambling around. That would have been awesome.
When he punched open the cell door, that's what I thought. I thought, that's it. That was his destiny, was just to save Andy. And, I was wrong.
Are you Freddy? All right, kill the monster from season 1 and 2 and Fire Walk with me, please.
Yeah.
You know what? In its craziness, I think it's hilarious. And it's kind of like Lynch does superhero movies. And do I think it works? I think it works as a scene, and it's fun. Would I have made that choice if I was co-writing with Lynch? I would have done everything in my power to steer him away from that. But we got what we got. It's an insane scene. Why? Because when you're sitting there and watching it, every single person, I don't care if you love the show or hated the show, watching that scene, your mouth was open. You were dumbfounded at what you were looking at. You couldn't believe that you were watching a scene of, a guy from the UK with a green glove just pounding Bob in a bubble through the ground and fire shooting up out of the floor.
Who somehow got step-by-step instructions, whereas normally the Giants' instructions are pretty cryptic. No, he got step-by-step. Go to the hardware store, find the pack of gloves.
Right. So, but the reason why we talk about the nitpicks a lot of times is because if we just praise the show, and again, I praise the show all the time, but if I just praise the show, how boring is this thing going to get, this discussion? It's important to discuss just kind of like, things we like, things we didn't like, just so that we can have a discussion about stuff. If we're just like, it was brilliant, it was a masterpiece, thank you for watching. So, oh my God, my computer almost fell over. All right. So I am so happy you're here talking with me. So I before we start showing off things, I'm just looking at the chat and they're just being wildly insane tonight. Talking about random things about Laura and Cooper, saying that Cooper was meant to fail. Well, yeah, because that's what Lynch and Frost had thought that they would have him do. That doesn't mean that I think he failed. I don't look at the ending of season 3 and go, man, Cooper failed. No, Cooper won. It was bittersweet. Yes. They were trapped. That's horrible. I mean, they were trapped. Yes.
Not over yet.
What?
It's not over yet. In my mind, it's not.
It's definitely not over.
There'll be something else.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course there will be, Millie. There will be. But will it? Is it a completely happy ending? No. Is it a sad ending? Sure. But it is uplifting ultimately. I think, because I understand people say, no, it's negative. It's negative. They're trapped and it's a horror show, and Laura remembers the horrible, torture she went through with Leland and Bob and all that stuff. I get that. That's all there too. But what else is there is that within all this pain, horror, and sadness, there's the idea that we have our two protagonists together in one place. Now, if Cooper was one other place and Laura was somewhere else, and they were trapped on two different planets looking at each other from across the stars, yeah, that's a depressing ending. but they're together outside the Palmer household. May not be today, may not be tomorrow, but they will get through this challenge together. They look at what they've already accomplished, apart and together. So that's the way I look at it. Obviously there's no right or wrong answer, but I think if you do, kind of pros and cons and pluses and minuses, you'll see overall it's more uplifting when you break it down than maybe the way it plays. But I don't know, that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think you have to make peace that you're not going to get all the answers. And there's a fabulous quote that explanation is for the disenchanted, and I 100% believe that, because I want the mystery to keep going. I maybe want a few more pieces. I don't need all the pieces, but a few more would be nice.
Listen, let's just be honest here. There's going to be more Twin Peaks. It may not be David Lynch and Mark Frost Twin Peaks. It might be a David Lynch Twin Peaks. It might be a Mark Frost Twin Peaks. It might be somebody else down the line. This is not the last time that we are going to see Twin Peaks in our lifetimes. It's just not. It's too, even though it's a niche thing, yes, it's still too big of a brand. Look at how many tweets we see and Facebook posts every day about Twin Peaks. You are not going to make season 3 so big, so vast, so broad, and then never touch on this world again.
Yeah, and bring in all these characters to fall in love with, like all the new characters, the Candys, the Mitchum brothers. I think we'll see more of them, hopefully, or read more about them.
Right. No, I agree. And we're going to be talking about one of those actually tonight. For those of you who may or may not know, I am getting ready to launch the crowdfunding campaign this coming Thursday for my Twin Peaks fan film. Actually, it's a movie I've been wanting to make since 1992, since the fall of 1992, actually. And, for whatever reason, you just never get around to it. You're like, oh, yeah, if I ever had the chance to make a Twin Peaks movie, this is what I would do. And then, you just go about your life and do other projects and other things. But, I've just been having such a blast living in this Twin Peaks world and, watching season 3 and talking about it with people from all over the world. And then I started getting encouragement from people saying, hey, I've heard you mention that you've always wanted to do a Twin Peaks fan film. You should totally do it. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, you should totally do it. So I thought about it, and I was thinking, all right. I've had enough people now talk to me about it and encourage me and say I should totally do it, that I should go and do it. But I wanted to wait until season 3 was done playing, and then had finished Mark Frost's book, because the last thing I wanted to ever do was create something in my hubris and then have it negate what Lynch and Frost were doing in their show or their books. That's the last thing I want. You know, and some people may suggest, hey, you know, just doing anything in this world that's not them is going against their timeline. But you know what I mean. So yeah, so I thought, okay, no, I got to wait till season 3, because if they touch on things, then I can't do it, because I don't want to go against their timelines. So season 3 didn't mess it up, and then or my chances of doing it. And then reading Mark Frost's book, oh man, I was so nervous before that book came out, because I was thinking, oh my God, this is gonna be it, right? I had 25 years to make this thing. I didn't get around to it because for whatever reason, just, you know, thought, it is what it is. But I always thought to myself that if I ever was in a Hollywood, executive room, and they said, okay, we're going to make a Twin Peaks movie, what do you want to make? This is what I would want to make. But some of it may have been like messed up by what Mark Frost was going to be writing in his book. So I was like, oh no, it's going to be awful. And then I read the book, and there was a few little curveballs in there, but nothing that would derail it entirely. It's just like, okay, well, I may have to make a little jump here and do a little sidestep here, but for the most part, it was pretty much intact. And Lynch is somebody who really believes in good things happen. Just follow your path, right? You have all the tools you need, right? So I was thinking, oh my God, it's kind of like a blessing in a way. It's like this was one of the roadblocks that could have stopped it, and it still didn't. So I was like, okay, so now I really want to do it. But there was some touch and go moments to that, especially in the couple weeks leading up to the book. So Millie here reached out to me, kind of came out of nowhere, and said, listen, I know you're kind of thinking about doing this, and I know you're kind of struggling about whether or not to do it. I'd like to send you something for encouragement. And I was like, okay, that's fantastic. And then I've shown this off a couple times, but I have to show it again. This is what she sent me. Now, for those of you who may or may not know, a lot of my fan film, not entirely the whole thing, but a lot of it has to deal with the character of Annie Blackburn. And so this is what Millie made for me, which she's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, like, you have that Heather Graham look. Down.
It's the big eyes, I think. Yeah,
it's the big eyes, and it's the crown and the dress and and the hair. Looks. It's just when you showed me this, I was like, oh my goodness. And that honestly was that was the final thing. That was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna try and do this. Obviously there's other roadblocks that could happen, but it was just like there were so many green lights happening that I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So Millie kindly sent this to me from Australia, and yeah, so super awesome. Now, what's really cool is that, if you know crowdfunding campaigns, if you donate a certain amount of money, you get like certain perks. I'm putting those together right now. Got really cool stuff, I think, being offered. Hopefully I'll get some more stuff in the next coming days. However, Millie here is super kind, and she's going to be contributing a few dolls that she made towards people who donate towards some of those perks. So let me think. Let me get my phone here. These people just keep texting me. I don't want that to get on the on the thing. So, all right. So some of the ones that you're hoping to donate towards the campaign are Nadine.
Yeah, so do you want me to get up, or?
Yeah. Let's start showing people these before we start showing some of your other creations.
So here's Nadine. She's an oldie. She's Probably needs a haircut, I think.
Oh,
Who else?
hold it up to the closer to the camera, because the camera's a little fuzzy. And then talk.
That's Nadine.
Getting ready to do some wrestling.
Yeah. Who else have you got on there?
All right, the next one is Diane.
Oh. Here's Diane.
All right, hold it up.
Is that the one?
Yeah, hold it up closer. There you go. Now talk.
That's Diane.
I love the cigarette.
Yeah, I probably should. I will. I'll paint her nails before I send her off to you.
All right, the next one is Lil the dancer.
Oh, I don't have her. She doesn't have any hair at the minute, so she wouldn't be good to see.
All right, how about Candy?
Yeah, here's Candy. I love Candy. That's Candy there. Can you see her?
Yeah, no, totally. That completely looks like her too.
Yeah.
And you're getting quite a good response. I mean, you know, there's several actors in the new season that have really loved your dolls, and they're retweeting your stuff and liking your stuff. So that's amazing.
Yeah, look, I woke up one morning, and look, mind you, I've been fairly cut off from the Twin Peaks world, living where I live, and being the age that I am. But I woke up one morning and Nayuki, who plays Nado, had sent me a message saying, "Hello, Mod Pie, my favourite artist. Would it be possible for you to make Andy carrying me down from Jack Rabbit's palace?" So, yeah, she's getting number 4. So I've also made her in her pajamas.
So let's show Nado. This is another one you're going to be putting with the perks.
I'll show you her slippers too, because they're pretty special. But that's Nado. It is hard to match some of the fabric up. So, like, some of them, obviously, that's not the pajama fabric in the show, but it's close enough.
All right, the next one is Hal's favorite character, the Woodsman.
Oh, I don't have him either.
Oh no! All right, well, I'll show some pictures of that in a second.
Yeah, that would be great.
The evolution of the arm is another one.
Yep, he's up here. Yep.
Oops, there goes Nadine. There goes Diane.
Sorry, Diane. I'll fix you in a minute. But there's the evolution of the arm. So it's actually got lights inside the head of that one. And if you hunt around on my Instagram or Vimeo, there is a tutorial on how to make that. Yeah.
All right, cool. The next one is, well, Laura, and you're going to be putting five of those up.
Yeah, so they'll be I've got a couple of Lauras that I've made. So some of them I'm keeping just because there's a couple that I can't part with. So this is the prom Laura that I made. So a little spin on it with the blue rose corsage there. But yeah, it'll be the Laura wrapped in plastic that I'll be giving to you en masse.
That's great. And then this, you guys, this is the Woodsman. Look at this thing. This is amazing. It looks like Hal, actually. This is amazing. This is actually going to be one of the perks too. Come on, guys. Who doesn't want a Woodsman in their house? That's amazing looking. All right, let's okay. Let's see here. I'm trying to find some pictures here. All right, so here is yeah, that's Diane again. If you didn't get to see her, I think that's great. And you even have the red hair Diane too.
Yeah. So I've got her in her pajamas as well. And when I pose these, I always put the Nado's and Diane's hands together. I just like them pressing their hands together.
And I love this too. You made Little Man and Bob marionettes, which are awesome. Those are awesome.
Oh, look, I've got a 14-year-old son, and he's okay with most of it. He doesn't like things that are meant to look like people but aren't people. So, look, I did walk Bob in when I finished making him, walked him into his bedroom, and look, the reception wasn't overly warm.
Here's the Giant and Senorita Dido. Those are epic. And Sorry, people are texting me and it's coming across the screen. Let's come
Well,
on.
while you're doing that, so I've got Gordon, and look, I'm one of. I know I'll probably never meet David Lynch, but in my mind, he's getting this one day. Come hell or high water, that's David's doll.
Here's one of my favorites here. Now this isn't on the campaign, but this is just awesome. You have a Rash Girl.
Yeah, Sky actually shared that on her Instagram and then wrote that she wanted it, and I have responded it to her, and I've got an address to send it. So Sky will be getting Ella, or the armpit girl.
And this is another just amazing one. This isn't Twin Peaks, obviously, but this is still David Lynch. Come on, guys, this is amazing. Eraserhead and the baby. Oh. Look at that. Look at just the craftsmanship on this thing. This is amazing. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, that was I think the first doll I made, I think, was probably a Laura wrapped in plastic. After that, Lil the dancer, and then I made the lady in the radiator and Henry.
Okay, I love this. This is just amazing. This is your Donna Hayward. I mean,
yeah, she's got freckles.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's see here. But okay, let's see. This is awesome. The Judy.
Yeah,
that isn't incredible. And now there's one that I know this was a popular one. You made the chromatics.
Yeah. So
that's super cool.
The chromatics have the chromatics. And
really?
Julie. Yeah. Oh, someone mentioned to me the other day, you should make a thing of Julie and her dog. I don't really fancy making a dog.
Now this one, I have no idea how you made this, but when you sent me pictures, I was like, okay, I see so much artistry in you, but this just takes it to a whole other level. Oh. I'm not kidding you guys. This when I look at this, I'm like, oh my goodness, how did you do this? Hopefully it comes across on the screen, but this is the giant levitating and doing the orb thing.
So that's glow rope. So I've actually got him behind me, and I'm sorry I can't pull it down. It's actually quite heavy, and Diane and
it's all right. Look at this thing, guys. Yeah. This is incredible looking. So
I love that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the fact that they were in the actual theater of Silencio.
Here's Donna. Close up for you.
And Cameron. Then this, what?
There's Donna for you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. with that blue sweater. And I love this is Laura dying with Waldo the bird and Mr. C. That is intense. I mean, Mr. C, look at him. You should send that to Kyle. He'd love it.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun thing too, because look, I don't have Mr. C with me anymore, and I can't say where he's going because it's to a special person as a present from somebody else. So I'm a bit hush hush about where Mr. C went. But the beauty of it is I can then take photos where I can put Agent Cole with Laura, or Leland with Donna again. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Robert in the chat says these aren't just dolls; these are moments.
Oh, I think so too. They're long moments for me, though. It takes a long time. Can I show them, Leland?
Oh yes, please do. You guys. Oh, and do you have the teddy bear from Johnny's teddy bear?
Yeah.
Oh, let's do that one too.
Do you want to do the teddy bear first?
All right.
So you can actually record your own message with this. It's got my terrible accent on it.
Hello, Johnny. How are you today?
You probably can't really hear it, but it does say, hello, Johnny, how are you today? And the head lights up.
So. Play it again. I don't want the text messages to hear it.
Hello, Johnny. How are you today?
It's pretty quiet. It's coming out of his tummy. And they're cherry scented. They smell like cherries. But there's that one. So, yeah, I've been mucking around with these little voice modules. And what I noticed is that it actually makes a pretty good smoke detector or smoke alarm. So this is the theory behind Leland's, but are you ready?
I'll catch you with my gift bag. You may think I'm not insane, but I promise I will kill again.
I've been pressing that so often. I'm surprised the batteries are still working. Yeah.
You know what though? I love that scene growing up. Ever since I saw that episode directed by Tim Hunter. But you know what doesn't hold up to HD scrutiny is when Leland starts bouncing off the walls and we realize it's a set because you can see the walls bouncing. And you're like, okay, if you want us to believe that Leland Palmer bashes his head in against the door, then maybe you should have like a stronger set.
Yeah. And I wanted to put little brains hanging down from there and put the gash in his head, but keeping it in the true essence of the film. Like he's got his shoes off. But yeah, I wanted to keep it as it was, as he looked when he said it.
Yeah, these are absolutely amazing. And you are also going to contribute an Annie to the campaign, which is amazing. So yes, you can have one of these as well. So yeah, I have to say thank you so much. I mean, what you're doing for me and this fan film is amazing. It's incredible. And I thank you so much for like reaching out to me and saying, hey, you know what? I want you to have Annie. That just, it completely changed everything. Cause I was like, you know what? It was just one last green light. And I was like, you know what? Now I think it's time. It's time. Now I'm putting together the crowdfunding campaign. I'm going to launch it on Thursday, and we'll see if the audience also agrees that it's time. But it's time for me. I just hope it's time for them as well. So,
yeah, I'm ready. Anything, I know that you're not Frost or Lynch, but anything Twin Peaks related. And, I've watched your show heaps and you're really quite knowledgeable, and I trust that you'll keep it as genuine as you possibly can. Well,
yeah, I'm not going to just start taking it off in some strange esoteric thing. But no, it's because, you love the story of Twin Peaks, but you also love the world of it. And I think there's so many things to explore within it that they've touched a little bit here and there, but they've never like explored it. And so that's kind of like what I would like to do. All right. I saw a couple questions here. Let's see here. They're yelling about Diane Keaton in the original series. Hey, listen, I will maintain this. There may be subplots you don't like in any of Twin Peaks, or especially like, let's say season 1 and 2, especially season 2. You may not like the James and Evelyn stuff. You may not like, Little Nicky stuff. You might not like this and that. But I will maintain that there is no unwatchable episode of Twin Peaks.
Absolutely.
Like even the worst of the worst, between Laura's murder being solved and Wyndham Earle's story kicking up, there's like, whatever, it's 5 or 6 episodes in between. Are they the greatest episodes? Maybe not, but that doesn't mean that it was like unwatchable or terrible. There was always a great scene. There was always a great performance. There was always a hilarious joke. And it was just great to even see the actors just kind of relishing playing these roles. I mean, Dick Tremaine was someone who wasn't in the news
I missed
series.
him. I love him.
But I can watch any scene with Ian Buchanan.
Yeah.
The sillier, the better. I know people complain about the pine weasel stuff or the wine tasting scene, but it's hilarious. But they're absolutely hilarious scenes. People complain about the Civil War stuff with Ben Horn. I get it. It's silly, but you know what? Those actors gave it 110%. Those writers wrote 110%. Those directors directed as best they could those scenes, and that's why it's watchable. There's some things like the TV show On the Air. I mean, there's some unwatchable episodes of On the Air. I think there's no unwatchable episode of Twin Peaks. There might be ones that you like better than others, but I don't think it's anything unwatchable and terrible.
No, and even the characters you didn't like, you end up, sympathizing or empathizing with them at some point. The arm wrestle episode where Mr. C gets punched in the back of the head, I found myself going, oh, how dare you hit Mr. C in the back of the head. Yeah,
that was pretty bad. Especially, I love the fact that the person he was arm wrestling against was Derek Mears, who of course played Jason in the Friday the 13th remake. So it was kind of like he was, taking out the big guy. So that was super cool. Reggie says, hopefully your fan film can premiere at the Twin Peaks Fest. That would be super awesome. if I go by the timeline of when I would be able to do it, probably would not happen. But I mean, yes, I know people have said to me, well, Cameron, they would make exceptions, you know, if it was more than 5 minutes long, because they try to play things that are 5 minutes or less. I said, I understand that, but it probably won't be ready in time for that. However, though, if I do get to make it and it can be arranged, which it looks like it probably will be arranged, then I will maybe put together a show of some sort and be able to still premiere it in Snoqualmie area.
Maybe an extended trailer.
Yeah. Maybe I could cut it together a trailer for the festival. But my hope is that I will still be able to premiere it in the Snoqualmie North Bend area up there. I just think that would be so surreal to be able to play it there and then have the reception across the street at the Double R Diner.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
And for a film that you're making that you can't make a penny on, it still would be like just a dream come true, you know? So.
Yeah, there's a photographer out there, Blake Morrow. Have you spoken to him?
No.
He had a photographic exhibition, I think, at the cafe there, and I think some of the images are still there, where he's recreated scenes from Twin Peaks. There's a beautiful picture of a Laura Palmer, and the plastic is just miles long going out into the ocean. Really beautiful stuff.
Right. So we have a question here from Dan O'Mano. Says, Millie, how did you see the original Twin Peaks in Australia? I saw it in Victoria on Network 10, seasons 1 and 2 in one run in 1991. Fun trivia, Network 10 was trying to find the youth audience.
Yeah, well, it found at least 2 of us. I'm in Victoria too.
Cool. So they played seasons 1 and 2 together.
Yeah.
All right, that's what they did in England as well. And so a lot of people over there didn't know like where the break was, because it's just, you know, I say, well, you can see where the break is because Agent Cooper has gained like 15 pounds in between seasons 1 and 2. That hair alone he has sitting in the hospital is so not the hair he had yesterday in his room.
Yeah, no, I remember. Look, I don't remember Firewalk with Me coming out. I remember the season 1 and 2 coming out on VHS, and I've got both of them on VHS, so that's pretty cool. I don't have a VHS player anymore, though.
Let's see here. Everyone's saying your stuff is fantastic, absolutely amazing. Mark says, you're right. Every episode of Twin Peaks is superior to all television. Mark continues, says, my only complaint is John Justice Wheeler. I don't agree with you there. Yes, his character kind of just, you know, de-virginized Audrey and then ran away or flew away. But while the scenes were on prior to that, I liked them. They were charming. They were sweet. You know, I thought I thought Charlotte and Billy Zane had good chemistry. So may have not been the Kyle Audrey chemistry, but it still was like not a horrible chemistry. They kind of played to their strengths as actors, and I thought it was good. I honestly, though, I wish that they had. I know they wanted Audrey to do the Miss Twin Peaks thing and then blow up in the bank, but since you changed it to Annie anyway, maybe they should have just had Audrey get on the plane and fly away with John Justice Wheeler. Just leave town. That would have been cool too.
Yeah, but she was in the throes of looking after her dad's business, I think, is
right.
And I think that threw me in the Mark Frost book that she was a hairdresser. Do you remember how bad she was at customer service when she worked at the perfume counter? It just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Anyway, they don't really like John Justice Wheeler. I did think it was kind of cute, though, because, you know, they wanted to have Cooper and Audrey together originally, and then for whatever reasons, obviously we know the reasons, but that didn't happen. But the writers still kind of play with it a little bit by having that. I like the scene. I'm sure some people think it's cheesy, but I love the scene of Cooper and John Justice Wheeler like having a drink by the fire. And he's talking about Annie and he's talking about Audrey, and you're thinking this scene only exists so you can have the two guys together to talk about the two women, when really it's supposed to be like Cooper and Audrey together. But honestly, I know people like love, you know, they love it. It's just, you know, the heat, turn up the heat, Cooper and Audrey together. Cooper and Audrey were in such different places at that point. They weren't season 1 Cooper and Audrey anymore. They had moved past all that. That I don't think it would have been a hot and steamy Cooper Audrey thing. I think they would have turned Audrey more into an Annie type of thing anyway, because when she came out of One-Eyed Jacks, she seemed to have a different perspective of life after she almost died. So, but I don't know. That would have been, in a way, I mean, who knows? I mean, we never saw it play out, so I'm speaking hypothetically. But it seems like it would have been fan service, but not a proper like build-up. I mean, Cooper had already laid down the law with her that this wasn't going to happen. Now we're to expect that 10 days later it happens. You know?
Yeah, and I think like it's testament to his good character too. I mean, what man in their right mind could resist a naked Audrey in their bed? Agent Cooper.
And the fact that they did make it very clear that even though she was in high school, she was 18, so she was legal.
Yeah.
So, you know, they
and
didn't.
Still not.
Right. So there it is. So, you know, Cooper was like, I'm not getting near this. And it wasn't just because obviously it's good morals, it was there, but also the fact is, you know, they well, I mean, this, of course, this wasn't created for season 1, but knowing season 2, he didn't want to do that to Audrey, what he did with Caroline. And he was in the middle of an investigation. And the last time he got involved in an investigation with a woman during an investigation, right?
Very well.
Horrible things happened. And you know, 2 days later, he shot at his door anyway. So, you know, and that's why I always thought that it never should have been Josie who shot him. I know that was just kind of a clever way to get her off this show, but and I think it works. They made it work. I'm not complaining about that, but I always thought that it should have been Wyndham Earle who shot him at the door.
Yeah,
because that would have connected it. I understand Earl plays mind games and this and that, but that was how they created the character as the show went on. But if they had, season 2 kind of literally begins with Albert saying, "Your former Coop, your partner flew the coop," you know. So they're already setting up that Wyndham Earle's out, and in the book it says that he was there in Twin Peaks for a month. So he was there when Laura was still alive. Wyndham Earle was already in the woods when Laura was before Laura was killed. So I always thought it would have been great if Wyndham Earle had just shown up at the door and just plugged Cooper.
Dressed as a love lady.
Right, and you know, because then with him getting the message from Audrey, and then you know, my special agent, and then he opening the door, Earl shoots him. It's like it's Wyndham and Caroline all over again.
Yeah, stopping him from saving Audrey. Yeah,
right. So anyway, I mean, I like what they did with Josie, but it does kind of feel like write her out now. Let's get her out.
Yeah, we've had enough.
Yeah, we've had enough. Put her in the doorknob. We'll save her for a rainy day.
Oh, I do. I have made the little Josie doorknob too. I don't have one with me, but yeah, they're kind of cool. I've got one on my drawer underneath my table, the little Josie knob. Why not?
Let's see. Mark says, Cameron, tell me what is so cool about John Justice Wheeler. He doesn't fit in Twin Peaks. Well, he's not from Twin Peaks. He's an outsider. He flies in, does some business with Ben Horn, and leaves. He's not supposed to sit at the diner and be folksy. He's an outsider. He's a businessman and a story. And it's the kind of guy that Audrey, if Cooper hadn't come to town, it's the kind of guy that Audrey would have gone with because she respects the business. She wants to get involved with the business. You know, a lot of rich people marry other rich people to get more businesses going. So, you know, I mean, it makes sense. I always wish that they had tied him in a little bit into season 3, even just a one-liner thing of you know, like even if Audrey was talking to Charlie, if he would have thrown that in her face, like, oh, you know, John Wheeler or something like that, you know, my former partner, John Wheeler, or I don't know, just something. Yeah. Just something. Because a lot of people were speculating at the beginning, like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if, you know, because what if John Justice Wheeler died and left Audrey his money, and that she was the one who owned the glass box and, you know, that type of thing. And I'm thinking, well, how would Audrey even know that Cooper was bad? Well, because she mothered his kid. Oh, that would see, you know what I mean? Like, people started saying things like that, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that actually would make sense. That would be incredible. And of course, we didn't get that. That's the one bad thing about shows like Twin Peaks season 3 or Lost, or whatever, is that the fans come up with so many amazing, astonishing theories that are sometimes better than what they give us on the show. Because you're like, wow, yeah, that would really work. Like the whole thing of Richard and Linda, how like people are saying, oh, Richard obviously is Audrey's kid, and then Linda would be Cooper and Annie's kid because they had sex before the Miss Twin Peaks pageant. That would have been perfect. No, they didn't go there. So but anyway, Millie, I want to thank you so much for joining me on tonight's podcast.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure. And just watch the please support the film, and hopefully you'll pick up a doll. That'd be lovely.
Super. Yeah. Oh my God, these people in the chat, they're just arguing about John Justice Wheeler, Monica Bellucci, and Lana.
The one argument I just can't stomach is, have you never watched a Lynch film? You're not a true Twin Peaks fan. I think we are so diverse, and there's things that speak differently to each of us, and that's the beauty of it. So we shouldn't be fighting each other. Just get along.
Exactly. But, people want to argue about every little thing and tell you you're wrong and this and that. It's like, yeah, you can feel strongly about certain things, but that doesn't mean that the other Lynch purposely makes things for you to connect your own dots.
Absolutely. Here we are months later and still talking about it like we just watched it yesterday. So whatever he was intending to do, I think mission accomplished. We're plugged in, and I hope there's more.
Yeah, totally. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot to bring up, and that is that they released pictures of what the new Blu-ray box set is going to look like, with the way the discs are housed. Right now I'm not a big fan of it, just because those sleeves that they have the discs in, they can easily be scratched. I mean, the disc can easily.
Oh, is it the same as the last Blu-ray release?
It's not. Well, it's going to be similar to that, but it's not going to be a big box that you open up. It's going to be one that opens out. But still, though, it's like they're going to be jammed in there and stuck. So my suggestion is buy some.
Buy two.
No, buy like a DVD or Blu-ray, like empty cases, and take them out of that box and put them in there, and then put those cases next to your Twin Peaks season 3 box set. So you don't have to keep taking them in and out of those slits, because it's gonna be a nightmare. You will end up scratching the Blu-rays, and yes, Blu-rays are hard to scratch, but it can still happen. But the good news is that episodes 1 and 2 and episodes 3 and 4, you can watch them separately, like you would on the Showtime app, or they're going to give you the option to watch 1 and 2 as the standalone premiere movie, and they're also going to do that for episodes 3 and 4 as well. So you can watch them separately, or you can watch them in 2-hour blocks, but only those 4 episodes. But I love it because, listen, I would have taken obviously whatever we got, but I love that those first 2 episodes together. I think that it really worked as just kind of like a 1-2 hour event, and the credits at the end were in different places than they were on the standalone episodes. The starring Kyle MacLachlan credit popped up at like 10 seconds later than it did with the premiere, and I thought that where they had it in the premiere was perfect. Like that was the perfect placement, and then on the standalone, like it was fine, but it wasn't as perfect as the 2-hour premiere. So I love the fact that they're giving us the option. They're not like saying, okay, here's the 2-hour premiere and this is it. What do people like the standalone versions? Well, they're going to offer those too. So they're really doing a great job with this set. What they're not doing a great job is with the sleeves. They need to fix those, or just get better. Just take the discs out and put them in your own cases.
Because I love the little Fire Walk With Me note that we found in the last Blu-ray box, but you're right, those sleeves are a nightmare.
Completely. So that's where we are in terms of all that stuff. But I mean, it's funny that you're talking about like we just watched it yesterday. Like it was 2 months ago, and what is it? Yeah, well, like 2.5 months ago, and yet I'm still kind of living in that Twin Peaks summer bubble. And it was, so it's been a lot to chew on, but you know, you get really busy with, you know, doing the videos, and then you dive into the final dossier, and then you make videos about that. It's like you're still just in that world. And then obviously, if I do this fan film, I'm going to be in that world for a while longer. And I'm actually really happy about that. I'm super happy because the world is being really crazy right now with all these horrible news stories about all these people that you used to maybe like or respect, and now they're all horrible people. And and now I'm just like, okay, I need to just kind of throw myself into a bubble and do something creative and have fun. And, you know, yeah, let's do something in the world of Twin Peaks that I love, and tell the story that I've been wanting to tell since I was 16 years old. So that's where we are. But Millie, thank you so much. Let people know where they can find you. And if you're not able to find it, I'm going to put everything in the show notes below. But why don't you hit them all? Where can people find you all over the interwebs?
Interwebs. I do have a Mod Pie page on Facebook. I'm hardly ever there. Instagram, Mod Pie as well. You'll find me. If you even just do a Google search for Doppelganger dolls, you'll find them. Or Twin Peaks dolls, generally they all pop up.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to put everything there. Yeah, the Etsy store, the Instagram. And, you know, and you're very, very classy about everything. Because, like, with your packing and packaging, I mean, Annie arrived like this in one of these nice little things, and then it's almost like those Cabbage Patch Kids. You're like, you send like cards to say, you know, hello, my name is Annie.
Thanks for taking me home with you. I actually was thinking I should do little adoption papers, but it doesn't make sense.
No, but it's adorable. Yeah. So I mean, like, look, I mean, shipping from Australia is that's a long journey, and Annie arrived, you know, safe and sound. Look, I mean, look, you know, she had one loose strand, so I you know, I had to take her to the hair clippers and get her a little cut. But for the most part, yeah, no, she came out perfect, and I have her sitting next to me so that I'm always inspired whenever like things are getting like stressful or rough. I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, Millie sent this to me, so I need to keep going.
Yeah, you have to now.
Exactly. And a lot of people love your Black Lodge dress back there.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, everything's on Instagram. There's little videos of me with the marionettes as well. They're really creepy, so brace yourself. But yeah, and I just like people getting in contact with me and saying, hey, have you thought about making da-da-da? Because every season we've had has, you know, vomited up more amazing characters. The Woodsman was awesome to make. NATO's been awesome to make. So, yeah, just drop me a line if you've got a suggestion, and I will get to it eventually.
Well, Mark here in the chat wants you to make a John Justice Wheeler doll.
Oh, after all that hate.
Yeah.
I really want to make Richard Tremaine. Yeah.
No, you need to make Jerry Horn with that big beard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or, come on. What about Dr. Amp and a gold shovel?
Oh, yeah, I've made a gold shovel. I don't know where it is. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he would be great. Thank you. Thanks so much. And best of luck with it. Just get in touch if you need anything.
Great. Well, thank you so much again. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in on your Friday night or Saturday afternoon, if you're where Millie is, and talking Twin Peaks with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all your love and support, your likes, your interest in me doing this fan film. And remember that it launches this coming Thursday, so just keep your eyes open. And if you see the link, just please pass it on, share it, retweet it. Just get the word out there. That would really help a lot. So in the meantime, guys, you guys take it easy. I will be back later in a few days, do another bunch of videos this week and kind of hype up this fan film even more. And yeah, so we will see you soon. Take it easy. Have a great night. Bye.